Hey, thank you so much for joining us today for the Start Church Ministry Minute, where we're answering the questions you as pastors and ministry leaders are asking. Stay tuned today as we answer one of the most important questions asked right now. Does my church need the 501c3? Join us. Hi everybody, thanks so much for being with us today. We are going to be answering some of the questions that are on the heart of many of our pastors and the clients we work with here. And today I've got the exclusive privilege of having our founder, Pastor Raul Rivera, in the studio with us. Pastor, thanks for being with us.
Thank you very much, and I'm very excited about what we're going to be talking about today.
Sure. So, you and I were just talking a moment ago how now that the standard deduction has been doubled, some churches are asking the question, what advantages do I have as a church for applying for the 501c3? And as we talked about it, it was so good, I thought we'd just share that with our video audience. So what advantages does a church have to applying for the 501c3?
Yeah, that's a great question, and it's a question that we have heard a lot. And there are several things we first need to know about the 501c3 status. And oftentimes there's one area that's forgotten, and that is when you get 501c3 status, it is official recognition from the IRS that your organization is exempt from federal income tax.
Which is huge.
That is a really big benefit because we often forget that outside of tax exempt status, income that comes in would be taxed.
Yeah, you think of your church. If your church doesn't have a 501c3, you'd be basically treated like a business. You would have profit, right? And
That's
the profit would be taxed at a certain level.
Well, it's important to recognize that, in one particular case, which is Branch Ministries versus Charles Rosati, who at that time was the commissioner of the IRS, and the court ruled very specifically that when a church does not officially have 501c3 status, it is not automatically presumed that the church is tax exempt under section 501c3.
Right, that's huge.
So many times we take that presumption thinking that we are, when some of our activities would not be considered unless they've been officially recognized as such.
So the 501c3 does give your organization that official recognition.
That's right.
Exempts you from paying into that corporate tax. What are some other areas? What about large givers? I know we're talking about the standard deduction being doubled, and some people say, well, I'm not giving $24,000, but maybe there's a reason to still have it in the giver realm.
Absolutely. Well, one of the biggest things that I've always preached throughout my entire life is that the biggest part of receiving a blessing is being ready for it when it comes.
Right.
Our church started as a prayer ministry in my parents' living room, and they were the pioneers to getting this off the ground. And one of the things that we noticed very early on was the large giver.
Sure.
When the person that wants to give the $50,000 or the $100,000, their first concern as they give is, hey, I need to get a receipt for this. And so we have to always think about the big blessing, the thing that comes. And many times for a ministry, you may only get that 2 or 3 times in those first 3 or 4 years, and not having the 501c3 status for those large givers could be the main reason why they choose to give it to someone else.
And we've found, we've talked with thousands of pastors, and if you talk with any pastor for any length of time, they will tell you in their 3, 5, 10-year story about a time when something big came through, right? They were believing for something, and God came through with a big gift. And how many times have we heard somebody call and say, I've got somebody ready to give a large gift. Can you get me the 501c3 by Thursday? Right?
That's right, yes,
and
right.
we have to say you can't do it. And I know last year we talked about one who they actually lost the donation.
That's right.
Because the donor wanted the guaranteed write-off.
Well, in that one donation that was lost was a music ministry, and they actually said, you know what, we're just going to wait another year and before we apply. And within months, someone wanted to give them, I believe if I remember correctly, it was over $100,000. And they called to say, hey, can we get it right now? And we said, we can start the process, but you won't get approved for several months because even the IRS itself has a process in which applications take some time.
Right.
So they went back to the donor saying, we're in the process, we want to get this done, but the donor moved on and actually gave it to somebody else.
So there's the corporate tax, right?
That's
reality.
Right.
There's the larger giver. What about those that own buildings? How does the 501c3 help them from a property tax standpoint?
Yeah, in most states, churches are considered wholly exempt, meaning that they are exempted from income tax, assuming they have their 501c3 status, but also property tax. Many states will require your church to have 501c3 status in order to be tax exempt. And we know millage rates on property taxes can be as high as 30 per thousand, or the millage rate could be 30, which means that it is a huge impact on your church's budget if you have to pay it. And I can think about a church in Florida. Actually, I was a part of this church as a very young man that ended up having to pay a $40,000 tax bill because of one small mistake. Yeah. And that could be, for many churches, the end of their budget for that year.
Sure, and certain amount of ministry didn't get done.
That's right.
Because you didn't take that administrative step. What about sales tax? I know there's a lot of our states that have available a sales tax exemption, and a lot of times they require 501c3 as well.
That's right. A number of states will not even consider you for sales tax exemption unless the 501c3 approval letter is part of the application. So, you know, in states, I'm thinking of Texas, you know, the sales tax in many places is over 8%. So just think about either an 8% increase in your budget or an 8% deduction in your budget.
Yeah, think of that.
You get to choose which one you want.
I like the increase. I'm sure you are the same out there. How about mailing? I know when I planted my church, we spent a lot of money on letting the community know, and a big part of that investment was mailings.
That's right.
But don't you get a better rate if you're at if you've applied for your 501c3? What advantages are there for me trying to tell my local community?
That's right. You can apply directly to the post office in your local area, and with your 501c3 approval, you'll get an automatic reduction in the cost of sending out mail. And especially if you put it into bulk, not only do you get the bulk rates, but you also get an additional break. And oftentimes, you know, we've been in an area where for several years, everything was moving towards sending an email out. And everybody was saying, we don't have to pay postage anymore. Well, with all the spam that exists now, 25% of emails get opened, 75% just don't even get opened. So that's becoming less effective. And a lot of churches and even businesses are finding the advantage of the old-fashioned paper in the mail. That's right. And I've received some advertisements from churches recently about services or sermon series that they're doing. And every time I see one, I'm reminded, look at that. When I see their bulkage, their postage, it's a lot cheaper.
It's money saved too. At the end of the day, a lot of these things are essentially like adding money to the budget, to the ministry, to do more things to expand the kingdom. Hey, we want to thank you for joining us today in this Ministry Minute. If you have any questions about the 501c3, if you need to take that next step, please give us a call. We would love to be able to serve you in that. Pastor, thanks so much for being with us.
Thank you very much, Nathan.
Thank you, guys.